Hello everyone, this is Shannon from Craft Ghetto. I'm so excited to be part of Waffle Flower's December release blog hop. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create this really fun peekaboo flip card using the brand new Cookie Love stamp set. To start, I went ahead and trimmed down two 8.5 by 11 pieces of cardstock down to these three panels. The front panel, which is 4 1/4 by 8 1/4, the back panel, which is 4 1/4 by 5 3/4, and the inside panel, which is 4 1/4 by 8 1/2. I now need to score each one of these panels. Starting with the front, I'll use my scoreboard to help me. I'll score it at 5 1/2. This will leave a little flap on the right side. For my back panel, I score also at 5 1/2. This will leave just a 1/4 inch on the right. For my very last panel, my inside panel, I'll score at 4 1/4. This will be a score right in the center of this panel. Now that all my panels are scored, I'm now going to move on to die cutting my window. Starting with my front panel, which you see here, I have a circle die that's about 2.5 inches, and I'm going to cut it over on the right side of the front panel, but I want to make sure that I leave at least a 1/4 of an inch from the die to the edge. So I'm using the grid lines here on my workspace and just making sure that I have that die at least a 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. Once I get the die into the right spot, I will grab some purple tape to hold it in place. Then I'll pop the die and paper into my sandwich and run it through my die cutting machine. Once I run it through, I'll then remove the purple tape and remove the die. I now have my window cut in my front panel. I now need to cut the window into my inside panel. So I've lined my inside panel, the left side of my inside panel, up against the back side of my front panel. Once lined up, I will then pop the die into that opening that's in the front panel. That will make sure that this circle is cut in the perfect spot on the inside panel. And then I run it through my die cutting machine. Now I need to cut my window one more time. I need to cut it on the other side, the right side of my inside panel. So again, I folded my panel over, so it's two pieces of cardstock now. Just popped the die back in that opening, taped it in place, and then ran it through. And now I have my window cut in not only my front panel, but also my inside panel. Now I'm just making sure that my window is perfectly cut and in the right position for my panels, and it matches perfectly. Now I'm going to move on to some stamping. So I have my front panel here inside my MISTI, and I have the Cookie Love stamp set here. I'm going to pull out the sentiment and the jar of cookies and just stamp it right here on the front of my front panel. I'm going to ink it up in Memento Tuxedo Black because I'm actually going to Copic color my images in today. And Memento Tuxedo Black is a Copic friendly ink. Now that my front panel is stamped, I can now adhere it to the inside panel. As you can see here, the inside panel, the left side of the inside panel gets adhered to the back side of the front panel. So I'm just going to add some liquid glue to that inside panel. Then I'll stand my panels upright on my work surface. This will just help me or aid in getting that alignment just perfect for my windows. So just kind of slide the two panels together. The edge of the inside panel and the edge of the front panel are both perfectly aligned. Now that they are glued in, I can now open up this card here and you'll actually see that sliding action. You can see that flap on the front panel slides over and fills in that opening in our window, and that's actually where we are going to stamp our first little scene, is right there through the window and on that front panel flap. So in my MISTI, I have our front panel and inside panel that we glued together, positioned inside, and I've also arranged a sentiment, a cookie, the cat, and some hearts, which are all from the Cookie Love stamp set, and I just stamped them in Memento Tuxedo Black. I'm now going to stamp the little mouse from the Cookie Love stamp set inside the kitty's arm, and again in Memento Tuxedo Black. And that will actually complete all my stamping for the inside of my card. And as you can see, when you open up the card, you'll see the kitty holding the mouse, but when the card is closed, the kitty is tucked away and you can't see it. Now I'm going to move on to my back panel. My back panel has that 1/4 inch flap that you see there. That actually will be adhered to the back side of the right side of the inside panel. But before I adhere these panels together, I actually want to do my stamping for my second scene. So I'm going to get that flap from the front panel out of the way and then align the edge of the inside panel with the scored edge of the back panel, making sure that little 1/4-inch flap is pressed down. And then once they're aligned, I'll then trace with my pencil the circle opening so I know exactly where I need to stamp my second little scene. So in my MISTI here, I have my cat positioned inside that circle that I traced on my back panel. I just stamped him in Memento Tuxedo Black, and now in his hands I'm going to stamp that cookie again and also in Memento Tuxedo Black, and that will actually complete all my stamping for this card. So now that all my images are stamped, I'm actually going to move on to my Copic coloring. On screen here, I'm just going to color the cat, the mouse, and the cookie because it's pretty repetitive. How I color these is basically how I color the other images on this card. So I do have the Copics that I'm using on screen so you can follow along. I'm going to step away and come back once I'm just about finished coloring. So I am just about done here, just adding a little shadow on the crumbs, and that will complete my Copic coloring that I'm going to do on camera. I'll color the other images, the other kitty, and the jar of cookies off camera. So now that I've colored my other images, I'm now ready to put this card together. I just found it was easier to color, especially that last back scene with the card not completely assembled. So on this 1/4 inch on the back panel, I've already added some score tape. I'm now just going to remove the backing on the score tape and then align it and adhere it to the back side of the inside panel. So again, I'm going to stand the panels up on my work space here just to make it just aids in making sure that everything's lined up perfectly, and just adhere that 1/4 inch flap on the back panel up against the back side of the inside panel. And once I have those two stuck together, my card is done. So I'll turn this card around here and hold it to the camera so you can get a good look and see the peekaboo flipping action. So when the card is closed, you see the kitty holding the cookie, which is actually the back panel. And then when we open the card, that flap on the front panel slides over, and that's our kitty with the mouse. And it works really well with the sentiment here because the sentiment says, "I love you more than," and then when you open up the card, it says chocolate chip cookies, and there is the kitty holding the little mouse. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If you want any more information on the products I use, please visit Waffle Flower. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.